Hello once again, and thank you for joining me on this special Valentine's Day episode. This will be my final top 5 dark romance movies, as I feel at this point I have looked at practically every version of a romance that one could look for and one can strive for. And with that being said, gather a loved one, or simply enjoy even more dark romance movies. Lobster. David's wife has left him for someone else. Heartbroken, he gets involved in an extreme program where singles have to end up with a mate, or in 45 days will be transformed into an animal of their choosing. David has chosen a lobster. The simple absurdity of the plot aside, the black comedy has a lot of heart, touching on the longing for companionship and the lengths people will go to just be with someone. Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz do have a unique chemistry in the film, very much similar to awkward first date syndrome, where you're not quite sure where the person is, but you're kind of just desperate to be on a date in general. There's a couple of fun standouts in the film as well, like John C. Reilly, and it's just a movie where you kind of have to turn off your brain in order to truly enjoy the absurdity of everything that's going on. I do like the funny subtlety of David choosing a lobster because of the fact that they're bottom feeders and the fact that they do mate for life. So David could be seeing it as, even if he fails in this life, he could potentially have a mate in the other life as a lobster. And the need for desperation to be with anyone is something I think most people can relate to at one point or another in their lives. Honeymoon. Paul and Bea are a newly married couple who decide to spend their honeymoon in a lakeside cabin in the Canadian wilderness. One night, Bea goes missing and is found in the woods by Paul, naked. Each day after, though, Bea acts stranger and stranger, forgetting basic things about Paul and basic things in general. As Paul investigates more, he slowly comes to realize this may not be his wife, and it may not even be human. This is a very sleeper hit of a film. Almost no one I've seen has talked about it online. The budget is very limited with almost nothing but practical effects. But where it thrives is the acting and atmosphere from Harry Treadway, who plays Paul, and Rose Leslie, who many may remember from Game of Thrones, plays Bea. This kind of concept in a film can be very easily mishandled because it's clearly about mistrust and fighting the urge for emotional and logical response between each other. But it handles it in a realistic sort of way. Some legitimately disturbing scenes included that put you in the shoes of Paul, trying to figure out who the person you love really is. Life after Beth. Zach's girlfriend Beth is dead. Devastated, he starts becoming closer to the only people who were as close as he was, her parents. But suddenly Beth's parents stop talking to him and kick him out of their lives. Zach becomes shocked at the reason why. Beth has come back from the dead in a more crazy and chaotic way. Zach slowly tries to figure out how Beth is back as more people start coming back from the dead. This movie has some of the best pacing for a darker comedy that I've seen in a long time. It also shows the surprising range of Aubrey Plaza, who plays Beth. Generally, her demeanor is always just this neutral, sarcastic, and kind of hard to read person, but this movie really brings out her acting range, from mood swings to kind of unstable nature that her dead version brings out. Dane DeHaan is also really good as Zach, with a realistic heartbreak that anyone can relate to losing a loved one. And the concept of letting go of someone you love is just a universal fear and reality that everyone should have to face at one point or another. Near Dark. Caleb is a young drifter who arrives in a small town and meets a mysterious girl named May, who turns him into a vampire and forces him into a caravan that she's involved in of psychotic, serial-killing vampires. Slowly, Caleb convinces her to leave the caravan with him, and he could have found a way to reverse their condition. I've mentioned this movie before on a previous list, ranking it in one of the best 80s horror films. But at its core, it is a romance movie. Even though there's some very graphic violence in it, and of course there's some great special effects. Adrian Pastor and Jenny Wright play the main leads, and through their performance you can see the progression of a relationship, going from complete strangers to truly wanting to save one another. The threat of the family adds a whole extra level of danger that makes the audience unsure if their relationship is based on fear or genuine care for one another. Having the sun not just be a thing to stop the vampires, but possibly a sign for a future on the horizon. After Midnight. Hank's girlfriend of 10 years, Abby, suddenly leaves without a word. As Hank starts to break down in their rural home in the southern marsh, an unknown creature keeps attacking the home, trying to get at Hank. Hank has to fight off not only the creature, the inability of the people to believe him, but his past memories and heartbreak of his current status in his relationship. I discovered this movie looking for just a decent indie horror film and was pleasantly surprised with how simple a concept like this was pulled off. The mastery of writer, director, and main lead Jeremy Gardner and the genuine chemistry between him and Brea Grant was legitimately heartwarming. This movie is probably one of the most real depictions of an intimate relationship I've ever seen on film. When people think of romance, they always look at the puppy dog moments, the beginning of a relationship, and the happily ever after honeymoon stage. This movie, however, had the skills to talk about a concept that very few films are able to when it comes to relationships, and that is stagnation, the inability to change routine, what it means to compromise within a relationship, and the sacrifices that both have to make in order for it to work. Because in truth, there is no such thing as a perfect relationship. The creature doesn't just serve as a literal fear of the unknown, but a metaphorical fear of an inability to move on and try to change things. The uncertainty of a relationship, the rocky moments, the parts where maybe you're unsure of yourself, your relationship, and who the other person really is. This is not only a fantastic film for anyone in a relationship long term, but anyone who wants to be in one. So those are 5 even more dark romance movies. I hope you all enjoyed, and have a happy Valentine's Day.